This is the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami, published by the Folio Society in 2023. It's the third Murakami book that they've published, and when I reviewed the previous two books, Kafka on the Shore and Norwegian Wood, I thought they were absolute publishing highlights of the Folio Society's recent output. So I was super excited to get my hands on this edition and see what it had to offer. Just like other books in the series, we get a slipcase that is covered in paper and then printed with a motif and die cut. On this occasion, we have this sort of radial gold motif, and then we have this circle cut into it, which lets a blue star show through from the book's front board. I'm normally a little bit suspicious about die-cut slipcases because I worry that it allows dirt to penetrate and damage the book. But on this occasion, I should say that having read the book, I think that this is a very clever and thoughtful design that connects really quite nicely to the themes of the book. So, I liked it quite a lot. Removing the book from the slipcase, we have a volume that is bound entirely in black cloth, and it is blocked in gilt with this desert scene that we see here. And then we also have a star field above, including this blue star here. Flipping it round, on the spine we have the title, the author's name, the Folio Society colophon, and then up here a motif of a tie and shirt collar. On the back we have a curled up tiger, so all a little bit cryptic. And then looking at the text block here, we have end bands that are blue. I was a little bit disappointed that the volume was bound in black cloth after those vibrant colours we saw on the other two editions in the series. But again, having read the book, I thought this is a thoughtful design that connects quite nicely to the theme of the book. So altogether, the external design of the book I thought is very nice. I particularly, as I said, liked the thoughtfulness of this slipcase. Opening the book, we have blue end papers that are custom printed. So we have this pointillist design of some sort of street or alley scene. We see houses here with a cat up on the roof. And then if we go to the rear, we have again custom printed end papers, but now to a slightly different design. The interior of the book, to a large extent, follows the design language of the rest of the series. So here we have the title spread. The title is printed in blue, and we see that just like the rest of the series, we have illustrations by Daniel Lovano, the first of which is here serving as a frontispiece. Again, it continues the theme of the rest of the series. These illustrations are nice and vibrant, but also quite cryptic and quite abstract. So the illustrations, one thing I quite enjoy about them is that they each represent a bit of a puzzle. We see here that we have the back of a balding man's head, candle with a hand over it, a rope ladder, what looks like the top of a baseball bat. It's a little bit unclear what these motifs might represent, but then as one reads through the book, there are lots of aha moments where suddenly it clicks and you figure out what these various elements have to do with the story, and so that made these illustrations unusually interesting and engaging. The edition has 7 full-colour illustrations, including the frontispiece, and 3 two-page spreads, but in a volume of almost 700 pages, I think it's about 688 pages, 7 illustrations felt a little bit ungenerous, especially when one considers that in another book I recently reviewed, The Postman Always Rings Twice, we had 7 illustrations in just 160 pages. By contrast, in the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, the last illustration is more than 240 pages from the end of the book, so the illustrations really feel much more sparse in this edition, and especially considering that it's priced at about £85, so towards the top end of the standard edition pricing scale, I thought there was room to include a few more of those full-colour illustrations here. But no complaints about the illustrations themselves, very well executed by Daniel Lovano, and as I said, quite interesting. And we'll see more of those in just a moment. As usual for almost all modern Folio Society standard editions, the book is printed on Abbey wove paper, so that's a nice, refined, smooth-feeling paper that's definitely a step up from anything in a trade edition. And like the rest of the series, the text is set in Arno with Futura display. So Futura is the face you see here. It has this nice, clean, light, modern edge to it that I think is quite fitting for Murakami's style of writing. And as we see on the table of contents, and we'll see throughout the book, everything is printed in two colours, blue and black. That's the table of contents, and then we have an introduction by the author Murakami. And then we go into the novel itself, which is divided into 3 parts, or 3 books, I should say. And then here we have an example of the general layout of a chapter header and the typographic plan for the book. So we have drop caps again printed in blue, and the Arno text has a fairly generous leading, so although this is quite a long book, it made for quite a relaxed reading experience. So now what I'll do is leaf through and we'll take a look at those illustrations by Daniel Lovano. And we see here that the back of each of the full colour illustrations has in yellow this small vignette image. Also throughout the book we have printed in blue more of those small vignettes that add a little bit of visual interest to the typographic plan. So let me maybe also comment a little bit on the novel itself. I've become quite a fan of Murakami's unusual style of writing, and this book is no exception. It's probably the most complex of the Murakami books I've read, both in terms of its themes and also the number of plot threads that it has going on. And I was initially a little bit disappointed that some of those plot threads felt a little bit unresolved at the end of the book. However, what I found is that when I finished reading and I put the book aside, for several days afterwards I couldn't stop thinking about it, and that I took as a real sign that this book had engaged me in a positive way and been actually quite stimulating. So I'm actually looking forward to reading this one again and engaging more with that thematic richness. Another thing I should say is that as the book goes along, some of the chapters are structured around these newspaper articles, and they get their own interesting typesetting with the headline here set in bold. And so that makes also for a bit of interesting typographic variety. In a similar vein, some sections consist of letters written to the narrator of the book, and they are set in italics, so again a little bit more typographic variety there. So that is the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami, published by the Folio Society in 2023. Another nice entry in this series of books, which as I said, have been absolute favourites of mine from Folio's recent publishing output. And so I'm very much hoping that come the new autumn collection this year, they'll have another Murakami edition to offer us, and that this series will be continued for some years yet to come. Let's wait and see.